Well, thank you so much for joining us. Time now for us to get into the newspapers and more. We're bringing you all the right information and analysis. We'll be joined shortly by Selom Branti, a policy analyst, as well as Vice President at Imani Africa. Okay, so let's get into some of the papers this morning. Let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper, shall we? No change in 2022 academic calendar. That's according to the GES story on page 13. Let's take a look at that. And so just to clarify, yes, the story is supposed to be on page 13, but guess what? It is not here. So I'll get that story for you. There's also an easy calm at Nima Mamobi. 9 arrested. Chief Imam urges restraint. And it's been really uneasy, if we can even add the word calm to it. But there is an easy calm at Nima, a suburb of Accra, and adjoining Mamobi in the Ayawaso East municipality. Following clashes between two rival groups, there was sporadic shooting, in case you saw some of the footage, on the streets of Nima last Tuesday, just 2 days ago, as some young men wielding guns and other weapons such as machetes and clubs from either group attempted to overpower members of the other. The police moved in to contain the violence and arrested 9 people in connection with the clash. Now, the National Chief Imam, and we all know him, Sheikh Usmanu Nuhu Sharubutu, has condemned the violent clash and called for restraint on the part of the factions and the youth. Now, there have been visits to Nima, investigations continue, and there's been talk that 7 out of the 9 suspects arrested were currently in police custody, assisting with investigations, while the rest, who sustained varying degrees of injury, were at the police hospital in Accra. Some others are on the loose, including the gang leaders. So that story there as well. No Ghana card, no banking. From July the 1st, if you don't have the Ghana card, you're basically going to be cut off the system. You can't bank. You want to have any bank transaction, the Bank of Ghana says you must use your Ghana card or national identity card. How do you feel about that? You can share with us with the hashtag AMShow. What do you think? Is the state going past its powers, or is it just using its powers to ensure that we all do the right thing? Of course, you know that when we have this national system and all of us are on board, there are other benefits that we can gain as a country. Shraj to extend operations to 30 more districts this year. And COVID-19 booster vaccination starts today. That story is on page 13. I can guarantee that one. Let me just give you a few details of that as I pick the brains of Selom Branti on all of these matters. So, according to the Ghana Health Service, and we've heard from the Director General, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaji, they will begin the administration of booster doses of vaccines from today. Now, the move forms part of the revision made to the national COVID-19 vaccination policy by the Ministry of Health in collaboration with stakeholders. The policy has also been revised to include the vaccination of pregnant women who will receive either Moderna or Pfizer vaccines. The Minister of Health, Mr. Kweku Agyeman-Manu, announced the review at a press conference in Accra yesterday. Let me say a very good morning now to Selom Branti. Selom, good morning. Hello, Mr. Branti. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Good morning. How's everybody?
We're all well here by God's merciful grace. But I hope you're well as well on the other end.
Yes.
We thank God. Let's start with this bit about no change in the 2022 academic calendar, according to the Ghana Education Service. You've heard undoubtedly of the semester system versus the trimester system and all of that. It's been a week already. I've not got your take on that matter. Of course, now we also have the bit about the Ghana Education Service inviting the unions, 4 of them, NATS, NAGRAT, TEU, and the CCTGH, to the discussion table. But what do you make of a semester system for children as little as those in kindergarten and spending 6-7 hours a day in the classroom for about 6 months straight? How do you feel about that?
Well, I have not seen any policy document that triggered or that necessitated this change. As far as I know, the Ghana Education Service has not published, or the Ministry of Education has not published one for the view of the general public, which I think is the first problem. The second problem is that they are now trying to engage people after the fact, which is very, very sad in my opinion. You have a system that has been running, the trimester system that has been running for possibly about 60, 70 years now. And then if you want to change it, it will require some kind of change management that should have taken years to plan, years to sensitize people, because people, even if you don't want to think about the teachers, even parents, sometimes schedule their annual leave based on their children's vacations and things like that. So now switching to a semester system means that you are changing the calendar around which parents even run their lives, children also run their lives, teachers also run their lives. Textbooks even should be adjusted for from term 1, term 2, term 3 to first semester to second semester. I think these are all considerations that should have been no-brainers for anyone who was in policy to run some of these things. So it is very shocking that none of these were looked at, none of these were discussed, no change management regime was discussed, and then within a stretch of 2 months to 3 months, you suddenly just give the notice that you are switching. I think some of these experiments on the biggest resource that we have, which is the human beings, which is the children of today, should not be done ad hoc and should be done with some kind of circumspection to understand that it's not only the teachers that are even the stakeholders, but even parents are also very important stakeholders. Publishers of books are important stakeholders. And these things shouldn't just be done like this, honestly.
Right. Well, moving on from this lack of consultation or consensus, let's talk about the other big story here. No Ghana card, no banking. And the Bank of Ghana is making it crystal clear. You don't have the Ghana card from the 1st of July, you're going to be cut off, basically. It's going to be the sole documentation used to conduct banking transactions from the 1st of July. Let's look at the timeline, especially considering that there are so many millions of Ghanaians still not on board with the Ghana card and who are even affected by the SIM card re-registration. And the fact that this is going to be the sole documentation accepted when you want to transact in banks and other financial institutions. Right move, wrong move, too soon, timelines, your take.
These are some of the directives that sometimes you wonder what is the real rationale behind the rush. You are having a situation where people are still queuing endlessly for Ghana cards. You have a situation where the demand is overloaded, and I don't think the supply matches the demand. This is not a time to begin to impose such things. And then also in every system, there are always redundancies, there are always fallbacks. You do not rely on only one particular mode of identification as the be-all and end-all. There are also other alternatives, which also have our biometric data, which can also be verified and actually are currently verified by the system. So it beggars belief that the Bank of Ghana will just get up and then issue such a directive. I don't think it is democratic enough. I don't think it's fair to a lot of Ghanaians.
Just a second. You don't think it's democratic enough, but just looking at their statement, they say it is pursuant to Regulation 7 of the National Identity Register 2012, LI 2111, and it is based on that they are issuing this directive. It is according to the law. And they are saying that it affects banks, specialized deposit-taking institutions, non-deposit-taking financial institutions, payment service providers, and dedicated electronic money issuers, forex bureaus, and credit reference bureaus. All of these are going to be affected, and it is in line with meeting its own requirements and ensuring that we comply with modern, technological, and safe banking procedures. Not good enough reason for you?
Yes, and the reason why I say that is also because of several other reasons. That even in the most advanced countries in the world, where some of us have all been to an experience, even if you do not have a national ID, there is always a fallback identification you can use. One, for example, is the passport, which has almost the same data as your national ID. You have your biometric data in there, which can be used to verify. You can use a biometric verification device to determine your identification if you have a passport, for example. And the fact that even some of these passports now are e-passports, and Ghana is one of the countries that have issued some. So if we should always do things with that in the background, there should be a fallback plan. If I have lost my national ID today and I can't have it replaced immediately, does it mean that I'm going to be moved from a banked person to an unbanked person? And we are in an era where banks want to actually or we are in an era where in this economy, we want every citizen to be banked or every citizen to have, we want to encourage banking services for every citizen. Now, some of these things only make it more difficult for others to join. And then also you have to remember the fact that even those who are trying to get these ID cards, a lot of them are traveling from very far places to try and go get them. Some have to move from one village or one town to another. When we assume that everything is as it is in Accra, we always know.
Hello, Salam. All right, so Salam's connection is a bit jerky right now. We'll work it out and reconnect with him as of when we can hear him again. But of course, he's sharing his thoughts on some of those matters, specifically the Ghana card being used as the sole medium of banking come July the 1st. When he reconnects with us, I'll have him wrap up on that and share his thoughts on the Nima incident as well, which is also raising quite a number of concerns. Per the daily graphics checks and our own checks from yesterday, calm has been restored, uneasy though it may be. When we have Selim back online, we'll get the details. But Coach Milovan Raivac, I'll stay on as Black Stars coach. And what else is he saying? He's simply saying that he was brought in to qualify the Black Stars for the World Cup, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He's not going to chicken out. He's not going to resign. He's not going to put pen to paper and say, I am stepping away. But the question is, the same person who said that the crop of players we have now is not the same like we had in 2010 or 2014. What else can he do? Can he do any magic? Some people have been blunt and said that, look, he only thrived at the time because he had the likes of Stephen Appiah, he had the likes of Michael Essien, he had the likes of even Dede Ayew, the Asamoah Gyanns, and many others, Sule Muntari and all, that the crop of players then hit his deficiencies. What do you make of it? You can share with us with the hashtag AM Show. But the Black Stars, meanwhile, are expected back home today after that unfortunate performance in Cameroon. We're still waiting to reconnect with Selim Branch here, but let's do the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Mayhem in Nima, 9 arrested after bloody clash over turf war between two Nima Mamobi youth gangs. So look, when you look at some of the videos, it's reminiscent of what you would find maybe on the streets of, back alleys of Brooklyn, somewhere in New York, gangster stuff. And these were people wielding all sorts of munitions, machetes, and all of that. Later, when we get into the security discourse as well on the show, as we start our big stories, I'll be engaging Dr. Adam Bona and Professor Enning on some of these matters. Salam, so quickly, you were making a point on the Ghana card bit. Could you wrap up so we take a quick look at the Nima Mamobi incident?
Yeah, I was saying that it's unfortunate because it's not everybody that has equitable access to some of these cards. And right. I think that it's something that they should not rush into to ensure that the full coverage of, or at least some threshold of about 80% coverage of the NIA card is right. done before they start dishing out some of these regulations.
Okay. Just to wrap the conversation, do you feel we're just being put through a lot of unnecessary wahala? From get your Ghana card, use only your passport, to the Ghana card for sole means or medium of transactions come the 1st of July, to your SIM re-registration with the Ghana card alone and all of that. Is this too much for Ghanaians, do you think?
It's not about whether it's being too much for Ghanaians. I think it is the rush with which we are trying to impose all of this on everyone. Okay. Just to ramp up the utility of the Ghana card. I think if we do it and we face it slowly into the system, it helps everybody concerned and without all this unnecessary push and pressure on people. Because currently everybody is just fighting to get the Ghana card at all costs. And we just need to be more circumspect about how we deploy all of these
Right.
transitional activities.
Okay, let's look at this bit about gangsterism, which has kickstarted very early this year, the Nima Mamobi clash. I'm sure you followed that incident as well. Like I was saying a bit earlier, people with munitions, all kinds of munitions, machetes, and all of that. And it was basically a turf war. The police has tried to contain the situation. Calm has supposedly been restored, but the undercurrents, I guess, are the main problems because whatever sparked this could do so again. What do you think we should be doing? If you could, give any support, advice, policy support to the Ghana Police Service, what would you say to them?
Well, these things have always been there and they have always been an undercurrent, especially in certain communities. I think just what needs to be done is that there should be more police collaboration with people in these communities. These groups or gangs or whatever we choose to call them are part of the fabric of such communities. And they're also a very good source of information on crime or different aspects of life that affect policing or can work with policing and then detection of crime. So I believe that the police should just maintain a very good relationship with such people or with some of the leaders of these people because they're influential in these communities. And I think by doing so, they'll be able to have a lot more cooperation with them. And then some of these incidences will be seen before they escalate.
Have you got both shots of the vaccine? Just trying to find out.
Yes, I have. I had them last year.
So AstraZeneca, then?
Yes, AstraZeneca.
Would you be willing to get a third jab, a booster shot?
Well, apparently some people are even on their fourth boosters as of now. Well, I think what should happen basically, the science behind all of these are still evolving. But I believe what should happen is that at a certain point, we should know whether we are going to treat this COVID-19 as we are treating the common flus that we are having and all. Since for all intents and purposes, there are a lot of mutations coming in day in and day out. And if we're going to take a booster for each mutation, I'm sure that within the next 2 or 3 years, we will have about 10 booster shots. So at a certain point, we would have to find a fine line between maybe where these end and where we can still move on with our normal lives. Well, but if there's a third booster shot that is required for essential things like travel, etc., I'll just have to take it. And most people would have no option than to do so too.
Right. Let's look at this issue. I've not had the opportunity of discoursing with you on it, so I'll run it by you. Lands Minister inaugurates 2 tech platforms to enhance timber trade in Ghana. That's in the middle spread of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. But what I have to say has nothing to do with this specifically. It has to do with Galamsey and what the Lands Minister has been saying in recent times. Looking, for example, at our water issues and what the Ghana Water Company has been telling us in recent days, and looking at the fact that a lot of the problems we are facing are actually on account of Galamsey. If you felt we should wrap up on this situation as quickly as possible, what would be your timelines? 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years? What would be your timelines? I ask that question because the Lands Minister has given us what he feels to be an objective timeline. I want to find out whether it is realistic for you.
What is this timeline?
I'd wanted to hear from you first.
If we really want to fix this Galamsey problem, we don't need 2 years to do it. We need 1 year to do it. 1 year of very aggressive monitoring, 1 year of very aggressive surveillance. I can tell you for a fact that if we were in the era of the PNDC back in the 80s, this would not have even been up for discussion. But we are in a democratic era where the rule of law prevails. However, it looks like we have had too many people abuse that aspect of the rule of law and the laxity and the lack of, I would say, attention to the protection of our water bodies and our natural environment, triggered by this galamsey, has factors that go beyond just their willingness to mine, but also the unwillingness of those who are in power to really do the right thing. A lot of these people are politically connected. This is an open secret. We all know that. And it's whilst you can't really put evidential document, what do you call it? Evidence around it. We all know that when you go to these sites, they will tell you that Minister X or MPY or District Assembly Member Z is behind this company, and therefore this company is untouchable. They go and take people's farmlands and then just raid them on their own. They scare and intimidate local chiefs and local opinion leaders, and then take over the lands with impunity. Nobody would do this if they didn't have political backing. And as much as rumors are rife, it is very clear that a lot of these people have backers because this is a money matter.
Okay, so having made these crucial points, what if I told you then that the lands minister says we'll need between 4 and 10 years? And mind you, that would mean that we're entering another political term, or even 2 or 3, because if it's 10 years from now, that would be 3 political terms. It would be the second year of another 3 political terms to come. That is what he says is a realistic timeline. So is it just politics then? Is it just a game?
Yeah, it's very clear lack of political will. I mean, I'm very disappointed that this is where it comes to where you want to say you need 4 to 10 years to police an area that is possibly just 2 regions or 2.5 regions of the country, and which is not even spread over very wide areas, but spread over the river banks of our small rivers. And we are talking about the Pra River, we are talking about the Brim River, we are talking about alluvial gold that is drilled from forest areas and forest reserves. You do not need so much to do that. I mean, back in the day, all it took was Air Force jets flying over some of these areas, taking aerial pictures of all these zones, and then deploying the military to go and flush them out. This was even in the 80s and the early 90s. I don't think that in the 2000s, when we have satellite technology and we have better surveillance technology available, we would need that many years to do this. It is because we have created this canker and we have encouraged it, and we are not willing to solve the problem. And all we are willing to do is to leave it for people to profit from it before, for a given period of time before we decide to intervene. I do not see any other way in which this works. And it is very sad that we have this kind of political will, or this level of laxity in terms of political will. This is even on the backdrop of the fact that there are people in Ghana here who have designed systems that are going to ensure that these small-scale mining activities can be done without polluting the environment or without adding harmful chemicals to the soil. I know that people from the UMAT, University of Mining Technology in Takoradi, have developed a system that can work very well to stop some of these things. But to the extent that that's not even promoted or encouraged, and we are still allowing these wasteful methods to go on, and then let these guys go on with impunity because they know they have political backing, it's very disgraceful.
Right. Let's talk money matters. I know that's another area that you like to get into. Recently, we saw, you could call it a draft release from the Finance Ministry. And here are some of the things it says. I want to tie it into a story in the Business Finder newspaper. It says, 2022 promises to be an exciting and eventful year for our country as we seek to build on our collective successes and promote stability and equal opportunities for our people. Let us as a nation gird our loins as trees of righteousness, and the Lord will guide us all to also bring the wealth of nations to ensure prosperity for all. For us as a government and the Ministry of Finance, we remain unwavering in our commitment to build a sustainable entrepreneurial nation. It goes on and on. That is growth inclusive and fosters social justice and social mobility. This year, we have set out our plan in the 2022 budget to implement a coherent and comprehensive strategy. And just to wrap, Selim, they say, government says it is going to be focusing on these 4 areas to bring about the sort of change or stability it seeks. 1, increased resource mobilization. 2, prudent expenditure. That is prudent expenditure management. 3, job creation through industrialization, agriculture, and regional hub strategy on the back of the AFTA. And 4, skills training. That is what government says. And in the final newspaper, we have the bit about government planning to cut expenditure. That is the 2022 budget for all areas of the budget by 20%. Is that good news for you? Looking at our economy currently, the Fitch downgrade and everything, is that good news that could put us back on a good footing?
It depends on where they are going to cut the expenditure from. Obviously, we all have been talking about the fact that there's been profligate spending by the government. A lot of the spending has also not been what you would call productive in terms of the effect they have on the economy. So just doing a macro declaration that you are going to cut 20% of expenditure could go different ways. There are so many sectors of the economy that need financial support from the government. So there has to be better particulars about which areas the spending is going to be cut. Because in some crucial areas, if the spending is cut, it's actually going to stagnate the economy and the economy is not going to grow. So we need to have further and better particulars about that. So on the macro level, it is good news to hear that the government wants to cut expenditure because a lot of its spending has been inefficient and has been expenditure that does not boost the economy or that doesn't have an aggregate effect of boosting the economy. There are so many vanity projects going on in the country that do not have very clear implications in terms of what the economy is supposed to gain from it. We have not seen a lot of those results, and that's resulted or culminated in where we are now. And it's quite obvious that if we do not start running these austerity measures, we are going to have an economy that probably is going to have a bigger deficit. We are going to have the CD falling a lot more this year. It's very dire in some ways if you look at the effect that the downgrades and our debt situation and our budget spending situation is going to have on the economy. But it is good news that there is a willingness to cut our expenditure. That is one. The second issue would be which areas exactly which they are going to cut the spending. And if it starts affecting people like government workers, etc., then we are going to have problems because the real value of the RCD is actually going to go down this year. And therefore is going to cause also a lot of disruptions in other areas. So it is very clear that we need better particulars of where the spending cuts are going to come and which sectors are going to be affected, so that if these sectors require more private investment, then those who are doing that can strategize accordingly.
2 issues to wrap in the next 2 minutes, Salom. The first has to do with UTAG. All 15 of their memberships across the country have resolved and said the NLC says our strike is illegal, but like the French would say, bof. We're going to continue anyway. All of them have resolved by speaking to their members. What do you think of that? Do you support it? Genuine way that the NLC says it's illegal?
Well, you see, these are all labor agitations. One of the biggest concerns you would want to have at this point is there should be alternative ways of looking at some of these things. A lot of these universities are now creating their own internally generated funds. Some of it that go straight into the national coffers. I've forgotten how it works, but I think that maybe this is the time for us to begin to decentralize some of these things and have the universities themselves begin to determine some of these things with just some kind of unionized lower grade pay. First of all, the burden on government is huge in terms of pay burden already. And if we want to be very creative about this, I believe that maybe it's time we begin to look at other sources of funding support for lecturers as well as university staff, because they are very crucial to whichever agenda we have for skills training and development of this nation.
Right.
And seriously, they cannot still be remunerated at the rates at which they are now compared to their peers in the world and their peers even in other African countries. And it is also a matter of understanding their role in everything. So if you have people who have had years of experience in academia suddenly being trumped over by others in other sectors who have just a few years of experience that do not have the amount of sacrifices people have put in, and then the kind of huge classes they have to teach. And
Salom, we appear to have lost your sound. Can you hear me, Salom? Hello, Salom. All right. So we'll get Salom back. We appear to have lost his sound, so he can give us his thoughts there. Let's look at the Daily Guide newspaper. It says, tension mounts at Okaishi in Accra Central 2 months after traders and property owners complained to city authorities let me just get to page 6 where we can continue from, of the construction of a 3-story building that they claimed was violating basic safety codes. The traders and shop owners are claiming that the building, which is currently occupying space serving as the only access route for the Ghana National Fire Service and other emergency services, must be pulled down by the authorities before disaster strikes. Typical story we see all the time, right? And things happen, and then we'll be running around, running kitty kitty, running kata kata, where we could have just decided not to cheat with the big boys. Anyway, Salom, welcome back. Wrap up on that point you were making.
Yes, so I'm saying that I believe that the composition of the UTAG or the membership of the UTAG shouldn't be more than a few thousands or maybe a couple of tens of thousands. So
right.
They should not be, I don't think spending more on their remuneration will cause such a huge dent into the national coffers, especially considering that even for sports, for example, we are prepared to spend huge amounts of money on, let's say, the Black Stars, for instance. And these are one-off events, but these lecturers are sacrificing day in, day out, investing a lot of their time and expertise into so many different fields to be able to ensure that they equip a nation for the future. And I believe that if a nation wants to get its priorities right, one of the things it does is pays attention to academia and pays attention to their agitation. So I believe the right thing should be done, and then their pay package should be looked at, made at par or made to a certain level that also gives or incentivizes others to come in and then also contribute to nation building by helping teach some of the young ones coming up.
Okay. Pardon me, my apologies, my mistake. So we had a little more time than I said we did. So we'll wrap up maybe in the next 5-6 minutes as we look at a few other stories. But you know, Parliament is about to reconvene. Your favorite people, your favorite boxes, they are getting back with all apologies. But you know what it is. It's just about what we've seen, and hopefully we will not see more of that. But one of the major matters on the back of our B2B minus with a negative outlook rating by Fitch, one of the big 3 ratings agencies or credit agencies, is the fact that we need to take a good look at the e-levy. Yesterday I had some discussions with some people, and everyone some people say, yes, taxes are good and our economy is not exactly as good as maybe we think, though the finance ministry, government says it is robust. We need the e-levy, so to speak, some have said. Should we look at the percentage in there? What would you say? The 1.75%, would it work to bring it down a notch? Would it work to bring it down quite a bit? Or should we just look at taking it all off and maybe mopping up areas where we lose money? SSNIT, for example, has been saying that it saved so many millions, hundreds of millions last year on the back of plugging loopholes to people who would have been getting payments that they didn't pay because these were ghosts. What do you think?
Yes. First of all, I think that there's a lot of wastage in the economy. So many people are getting access to monies that they shouldn't get. I think that plugging a lot of these holes are very, very important. As to the e-levy, I would believe that it is inevitable that at a certain point, the e-levy will be charged on consumers or on people. But to start it this early, just to plug in a hole in terms of our ability to generate revenue itself is wrong. We should not just jump into introducing taxes arbitrarily just because the government has overspent money over the past few years and therefore they need to just raise revenue to plug in some of the revenue holes that they have. That is like opening water into a basket and then expecting that basket to get full. It never happens. Secondly, the rate at which they were trying to do it or trying to introduce it is nothing short of draconian. It's nothing short of exploitation of a system or of an ecosystem,
Draconian,
especially in the age where we want to introduce digitization
wow.
of payments and all of that. You do not suddenly just take an explosive and blow up the bridge that is actually going to bring people into electronic banking or into the phase where we are doing cashless payments by imposing such very, very, very draconian and very, very wicked premiums on payments. We have to imagine that if a lot of people who are earning below, let's say, 1,000 cedis have to suddenly send monies to their families or even do things like buy fuel at the filling station, for instance, then you are really going to start taxing a whole lot of people who are already paying different aspects of taxes on purchases of products that they are having just because the government needs money. And I think that what needs to happen is that they need to review the rates considerably and peg it somewhere at most 0.05%, and then move forward from there, because we cannot have this kind of huge tax, especially when other tax loopholes are being covered.
Salam, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Did you mean 0.5% or 0.05?
No. Yeah, 0.5, yes. Yes, 0.5%.
Okay, 0.5%.
That should be the highest they should go. Ideally, if they were introducing something like this, they should have started from 0.25%.
Right.
And then moved up from there. And then put a threshold for daily transactions at, let's say, 300 or 400 cedis.
Right.
But you put it at 100 cedis, when even some of us, when we are buying fuel, we even buy fuel more than 100 cedis. So imagine you have to buy fuel and then you have to send money to somebody else to pay for something in the house or something, then the tax kicks in, and then suddenly you realize that you are spending more than you need to spend. And a lot of the people who spend a lot of these monies are also business people and traders who already, sorry about that, who already have huge financial obligations that they have to do on a daily basis and are already paying different aspects of tax on their operations that they do. So when you start taxing this, then it's like double taxation already. And you are increasing the tax burden on people who are already paying one tax or the other for more transactions that they are doing. So it needs to be reviewed, and it has to be done in a way that is humane. And that considers the fact that a lot of the people in this country are actually poor people and aren't as rich as we seem to think. I think there's a bit of a dissonance connection between those who make these policies and their knowledge of the actual lives of people on the ground. And therefore, when they think about the threshold of transactions like a transaction that costs 100 cedis, they also do not know that there are a lot of people in the very poor bracket that run transactions of this magnitude just because of the kind of business that they do.
Right.
And I think that these are things that should have been considered very carefully before trying to come up with a tax like that, which is actually not even progressive anyway.
Right.
Because the fact that I spend 100 cedis doesn't mean that it is disposable money that I have to spend. It is probably because I have to do a critical business transaction, and turnover does not equal revenue. The fact that I spend 100 cedis doesn't mean that I own 100 cedis. It probably means that I have access to 100 cedis that I need to do something with, but it's probably all not mine, and therefore taxing it all means that you're also reducing the amount of money I can save to actually build the economy and progress the economy further.
Right. That ties into the story on page 3 of the paper. Producer price inflation closes the year at 12.8%. It's something we've mentioned before. And on the banner headline, government borrowing, domestic market only has short-term capacity. That's according to analysts. But the final bit I want to wrap with you on has to do with, guess what? The Ghana Black Stars. Did you watch the last match? Did you watch
I did. I watched
the match versus Comoros?
Yes.
What did you make of it? Our performance.
I'll just say that I don't think we're really prepared for this tournament. We're relying on our past glory and reputation to carry us through. And also in the game itself, we're unfortunate and we didn't take all the chances that we could have taken.
Do you think some people are calling for Milovan Rajevac to go? He says, for where? For here. He says he's not going anywhere, that he's here to qualify the Black Stars for the World Cup. But we just saw their performances. En route, they played Algeria, lost by 3-0. We locked horns with, well, to be fair, the second-ranked team in Africa, Morocco, lost by 1-0. We felt we'd pick up from there. We drew with Gabon in a match that we were winning, and we got beaten by Comoros, debutants, by 3-2. Do you think it's justified those who are saying Milo should go?
Well, it's not just Milo. I think it's the whole reasoning around how we run the football thing in Ghana. There've always been talks about some kind of corruption, favoritism here and there, and people not taking the right talents into the team just so that their agents can get a lot of money and cuts. These are things that need to be looked at forensically, and it's not going to take 2 months or 3 months to do that. We have to really look at what we want to do in terms of the Black Stars, what we want to achieve, even in terms of the marketing potential and so many other things. And then all of that has to come into play in terms of managing the whole team. We have to know what we want from the team and what we believe the team can do, and then recruit the right resources for it. It's not just the coach, it's not just the FA chairman, but it's also even the kind of concentration or the kind of targets that the sports ministry is going to put up. And these shouldn't just be targets that are just lip service, but actually targets that put into cognizance the kind of talent that we want to create,
right,
and where we are going to build that talent from.
Right.
So all of these things need to happen.
In the meantime, we've heard from the sports ministry calling on the GFA for some interactions. We'll see what happens from there. But thank you so much, Salom. Thank you so much,
thank you very much,
as usual, for joining us for another Thursday morning. And have a brilliant day. That is Salom Brantier, who joined us for today's discussion of the newspapers. We have a lot more coming your way right after this break. Do stay.